I've mixed 3 values here on my palette: a dark value, a medium value, and a light value. Referring back to the breast and the airbrush, what you'll find is that I've been easily able to establish a translucent, a gradient of value dot pattern on the breast, but it's also very nondescript. It defies your eye to try to focus on here. What we need to do, in order to create softness, we have to create hard, definitive lines. One of the things that we can do, we can take this median color and we can shadow a good many of the splits, some of this texture that was carved into this piece. This obviously could go on for hours, but I'm trying to give you the hint as to what's required here. Following that, we can take a dot that is below the surface, such as this one. This dot's on the surface, this one's below the surface. What we'll do is we'll split the feather that lays over top of it, and that brings that dot then to the surface. Now this will have to be done in any number of cases. And of course it could be more than one split through the dot. In addition, some of these dots that are on the surface will have a lighter edge feather overlapping. I made this color real light because I want to create a goodly amount of definition. Here's what we'll do. We'll extend these edges over that dot. We slowly begin to remove the foggy edges of the airbrush. We can work back and forth, dark and light. In some cases, maybe even put on whole hard edges. Get that thing right on the surface. Take that one, split it into the feather above it. Back and forth, dark to light. Define the whole area. Another example of the freehand use of the airbrush would be to clean up a line, as for instance between the yellow and the black here. This is not a blend. It doesn't go from yellow to yellow black to black. It's simply, well, what we want to do is create a soft line here that we can split and tip and crisscross to create a soft area. Again, like I said, we apply this in a freehand fashion. Let me illustrate this for you. This is going to require that you get down fairly close to the work. You'll get a feel for this. If I didn't mention it before, let me tell you that it takes 3 or 4 hours. You begin to get the feel for the airbrush and you become functional with the brush in that time. See how you can just soften along that edge? Soften along right in there where that was a little bit messy. Then you can set your airbrush aside and you can run splits through there. So in this case, I can run black splits or black tips out here. work through that area like that. And then conversely, I pick up my white shade. Put some tips into here. So the airbrush gave us just a transition area in which to work. We clean it up by doing this. There's no sign of the airbrush left. This is just another example of how you could use the airbrush in a freehand manner. What I did was I shadowed here around the eye in this low area. I shadowed here next to the bill, under the chin, and along these feathers here where they roll under. That gives me the opportunity then to highlight next to the shadow, create a lot of contrast right here. Also, along where the white and the darker colors of the head meet, I shadowed right along the edge. I call this like putting a mat in, like you would with a photograph or a print. And I'll use my colors through that mat, both the white from this area and the darks from this area. And right through the area of that mat, I'll tie those two together. That'll work out nicely. This is a red-breasted nuthatch. The original of this bird was carved by Bob Googie. What I want to do is shade this area, this flank area, from darkest to light towards the belly. There's also a couple of little feather groups here that we can highlight as we go along. I can just catch the edges of a few of those. Edges. Now I can just shade from dark to light as I work my way through that area.